Hi, Ed here at the Gwent booth at Gamescom. We're currently speaking to, well, why don't you introduce yourself for everyone?
Sure. So I'm Brad Auty. I'm an animator at CD Projekt Red, and I'm working on the Gwent team.
Okay, and why don't you tell us a little about Gwent?
Yeah, sure. So Gwent is it's a digital collectible card game. It started as a mini game in Witcher Wild Hunt, and maybe you're familiar with it from that.
Indeed.
Awesome. So what we're doing now is making a standalone version of Gwent. So we're trying to make like the ultimate version of Gwent for multiplayer, make it super competitive, super fun, super balanced. So just to cover the basics, it's over 3 rounds.
Yeah.
You have 3 lanes to play cards in. You start the game with 10 cards, and they are your cards for the whole game across 3 rounds. There's no mana cost for playing those cards. It's completely up to you how you play those cards across those 3 rounds. It's all about adding up the total strength of your units on the board across those 3 rounds. If you have more strength than your opponent, you win the round. First to win 2 rounds wins the game.
Great. And Gwent comes from the Witcher 3. It was a minigame, as you've said. Why take that minigame and make it a fully fledged game on its own?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had to with how much we heard from the fans and the players that they just loved Gwent in Wild Hunt. We got so many emails, so many letters. There was people in the community making their own physical versions of Gwent, their own boards, their own decks, things like this. So we just started playing around with the idea of taking what we had and making it multiplayer, seeing if it was fun. And we really quickly found out that it was fun. It's really exciting to play against someone like a real person rather than AI. So from there, we've just been working on balancing, making it deeper, more competitive, and just more fun, really.
And let's get this nailed down. Gwent, you're saying playing against other people, but is this just a PvP game? Is this just another Hearthstone?
It's not like, it's a very different game, really. Like it's collectible card game, sure, it's a digital card game, but outside of that, the mechanics of Gwent are really unique, really original. It's we have this, like we talked about already, there's no mana cost for the cards. It's way more about how you play the game than the cards that you get, right? It's very tactical. There's a lot of bluffing involved, deception, these things that are very different for a digital card game.
Mm-hmm. And I believe it's across 3 rounds, so each round isn't entirely independent, is that correct?
Yeah, so each round, it's the same cards across the 3 rounds, right? So it's up to you. Like, maybe you want to throw that first round. Maybe it's just about baiting your opponent to play all their cards, so they're screwed for the last couple of rounds, right? So there's tons of different play styles as far as how you want to win the game because we have these 3 rounds.
That's great. And just diverging slightly from that, back to the mini game in Witcher. The game had a number of factions. How many factions are we getting in Gwent when it launches for everyone?
So for the closed beta, October 25th, it's going to be on Xbox One and PC. We're looking at 4 factions. We have Skellige, Scoia'tael, Northern Realms, and Monsters.
And are there going to be more factions coming down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. Nilfgaard will be coming for one.
Fantastic. Okay, so more of a personal set of questions. You have worked on the art and design within the game. The cards themselves are entirely different from the cards that we've seen in the Gwent minigame. They're fully rendered, they're 3D, they're shiny, they're really shiny. So what cards in particular are you proud of?
Oh, proud of? Wow, so there's so many. Like, I mean, in my opinion, and I think hopefully you can see it too, I think we work with some of the best illustrators in the world really right now. Mm-hmm. The card art that we get from these guys is just always incredible. And what we do with the premium cards, when we're trying to make that ultimate shiny Pokemon card, and we bring these cards to life in really cool ways. We're just trying to tell the story that the illustrator was trying to tell with animation, VFX, 3D. One that I particularly like isn't one that I worked on. It's the Behemoth Arrakis. Maybe you can see it in the booth here on some of the videos.
No, we'll try and get a picture for the for further down this article.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean that's my favorite right now, but it changes all the time because the guys are just making cooler and cooler cards every time. It's
and how
awesome.
do players get these premium cards?
Premium cards, there'll be a bunch of different ways that players can get premium cards. We're still working out specifics of how players earn things, monetization, things like that. But yeah, you'll be able to get these premium cards and just show off. And when you play them on the board and see them all animated, it's really special.
And I believe the overall UI had a huge change as well. It's changed somewhat. It's certainly more, not just more polished, but it has a little more information on it than the mini game as well.
Yeah. Well, we've added a lot of new skills to the game and a lot of different unique abilities within the factions, and we want to make sure everything is very clear when you're playing the game, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information, but we use color, we use a bunch of different things to give that information a way that you can look at the board and just know where you're at. You know, like, okay, this guy's being buffed, this guy's being debuffed. You should be very clear and understand what's going on with the game.
And the along with all the new animations, the new skills, have you had to add new characters, new monsters to the game, or have you pulled stuff from the existing lore into the game?
Yeah, we've done a ton of that. Like, and it's not a case if we had to; it's a case if we want to, right?
Yeah.
There's so many cool characters in the Witcher lore. We've took characters from the games, from previous games, characters who may have been hinted at or talked about, legends from the Witcher lore. So there's so much to draw from, and we just keep coming up with cool ideas. The designers come up with great ideas for a card and what skill it could have. The illustrators come up with a great idea for how that could look, and it's just constant creativity.
And as you've said, you've got new characters on these cards as well. And we're pulling characters, or we're seeing characters in the PvE content. It's not just Geralt. We've got other characters from the game in the demonstration that we've seen. This probably marks the first instance where we're seeing really prominent characters from the game coming into a game that isn't primarily about Geralt. Do you think that down the line we might see other Witcher games that aren't just about him?
About Geralt? Well, our single-player campaigns for Gwent, they're not necessarily going to focus on Geralt. Like, he's always going to play a part. He's going to be there. He's the guy we want to see. He's the Witcher, right? But, yeah, we want to tell stories with new characters which have been talked about in the books that maybe we haven't spent much time with in the games. It's all about expanding that world and just telling these stories that haven't been told yet. So, yeah, we have a lot of familiar faces, but we're also going to make some new characters for people to fall in love with, bring those over into Gwent for the multiplayer, and you're going to see more and more new characters.
Going to let us see more of the world then, yeah?
Yeah, exactly right.
And that means you get the chance to animate and create more of that world as we see it.
Yeah, it's great. Like, stepping back into Witcher world and just being able to make more characters, tell more stories, it's really exciting.
That's great. We've got a couple of questions that we also go ahead and we're asking everyone across the show for, across our written interviews that we're doing on the magazine. And what we'll do is we'll ask you a couple of them now.
Sure.
So, first of all, you've already stated who you are and what your role is. So what we're also going to ask is, how did you get started in the gaming industry?
Oh, wow. Well, I guess my start was at a company back in Cambridge. I was working on a game called RuneScape.
Yeah.
And it was good times. I've always been an animator in the industry, but like I've done a lot of other things as well. Like, but working on Gwent right now, I do a lot of I do some modeling, I do some VFX, I do some 2D artwork. So it's nice. I think it's good to have a broad understanding of what comes before you in how to make a game and what comes after you. And yeah, the more you can understand the ins and outs of making games, I think the more useful you are in the industry, really.
Cool. And segueing slightly, what one piece of tech, irrespective of where it's from, what one piece of tech has you excited?
Tech. Wow, I think it's VR. Like, I'm super interested in it.
Everyone says VR. Everyone this year said VR.
It must be good then, right? Like, I say that, but I haven't tried many of the demos yet. If I get some time today, I'd love to go over and try the PSVR.
Well, what we'll do is we'll let you go, and hopefully you'll be able to squeeze a couple of minutes in, a couple of hours most likely, with the PSVR. Oh yeah. But thank you very much for your time, and look out for more information on Gwent at Gaiscioch. You can check that out at gsch.info. Thank you. Thanks.